Bulldog. Mike Shope has the day off. Nate Geary alongside in his place today. Sal Capaccio now on the Western Hotline, and we'll just turn it over to Sal, and he will read from today's injury report, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
No doubt.
There's a lot of names. It does seem. I'm curious to hear what you think, how you feel about it. I feel like, despite the length of it, it was better news than it was on this day last week.
Yeah, listen, it's really funny you say that. I have the same feeling about it, which is there's a ton of names, but I'm actually going to look at this as actually not a bad thing because it's Wednesday and almost all of the names are limited or full. There are 2 DMPs, but you think about all the – let me count them. How many? 14? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Only 2 out of the 14 are DNPs. I think on a Wednesday that's good. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who's limited is going to play. We have seen this before, right? Taron Johnson limited last week. Joshua Palmer limited last week. They didn't play in the game. But I'm on a Wednesday here. Not only are these guys limited, but Bulldog, the only player on this list limited that I saw in a red non-contact was Khalil Shakir. Everybody else is out there, doing their normal stuff from the stretching we could see and dressed like, in their blue or white jerseys. So I'm going to take this as a pretty okay step right now. I'll also add this. Joshua Palmer full, really good news, obviously. TJ Sanders full, not even on the active roster yet, but that's very good news, obviously, if they want him to, come back. And then AJ Epinesa coming back from a concussion, being full is really good news.
Yeah. So what is the Shakir being limited and in non-contact on the heels of, not that Kincaid was a surprise. We knew when he left the game and was ruled out with a hamstring injury, it was probably going to be a while, and week to week is the story there. So there's no shock in seeing him as a DNP today. I feel like, though, with Palmer coming back, that's great news. Hopefully he'll be ready to go this week. But Shakir that shakes me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see where it goes with him. Hopefully more precautionary than anything. But if you are without Khalil Shakir this week, on top of being without Dalton Kincaid, now the good news is Joshua Palmer looks like he's on track to come back. And I'll throw Gabe Davis in here. He doesn't appear on an injury report because he's on the practice squad. But I just get this sense, by the way that McDermott talks about him, by the way that everything's been going with him, I get the sense that we're going to see Gabe Davis on Sunday. But, don't know that for sure yet, but it feels like that. But I agree. You don't want to be without Khalil Shakir. He's obviously, I would say, your most reliable wideout.
So if you are optimistic we might see Gabriel Davis this week, what does that look like if Palmer's back and Gabriel Davis is being elevated? Would you say it's like a Curtis Samuel, maybe inactive? Like what does maybe the group, if everybody's healthy, in your mind, you're looking at the depth chart, what does it look like to you?
Well, I would say this, and it's a great question because to me it's not about depth chart. It's simply just numbers and who's playing and who's not, right? So I don't know who gets – because, you go by depth chart, right? Like Keon Coleman plays more snaps than anybody,
right.
But yet – Tyrell Shavers actually is on the field first before him, generally, it seems like. He's on the field for a run play to start the game. But, yes, to your point, I can't see 7 wide receivers obviously active on game day. Heck, I mean, they usually, a lot of times they go with 5. And they might go with 6, but 7, no. And then when it comes to Gabe Davis, does he get a spot on the 53? They don't have to do that yet. That could be reserved for TJ Sanders. Right now, the Bills have 52 players on their roster. They have a spot for another. To me, that's TJ Sanders. If they want – by Saturday at 4 p.m., since he's been full, you already have an injury right now to Fedarian Mathis. Maybe that's something you do. There you go. So now you elevate Gabe Davis maybe from the practice squad. Where does he fit in? Good question, because are you going to activate 7 players? Now, you're not going to, so who would be the odd man out? I guess you could really theoretically do that. And then you have Mecole Hardman, by the way, we haven't talked about. So I don't know who the odd man out is. I mean, I don't think I could get as far as saying, like, with everything surrounding all this talk about Keon Coleman, they wouldn't actually do that right at that point. I don't think so.
Like bench him, you mean?
Right. You know what I mean? Or, make him inactive. But I do think, though, that to me it's always felt like Gabe is more of a Keon, style replacement, right? Style replacement. It doesn't mean it has to be 1-for-1. But I think just by the way they've handled everything, it would most likely be Samuel or Moore. I don't think it'd be Shavers because he plays special teams, but it certainly could be, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like when Gabe first returned to practice, we talked all this through, and I'm going to land in the same spot. It's Moore or Samuel if I'm pulling one guy out. The question from there, because that's a curiosity, but the bigger question is what role does Gabe Davis walk into first time being active? Is he playing, 20% of the snaps? Is he playing 50, 60, like whatever? Is he sharing time with Keon Coleman? Because I guess I would agree. I'd be, I don't know if I want to say stunned, at least very surprised if Coleman got pushed out because of Gabe Davis being here. But maybe they do a little bit, not that either guy's a rookie, but maybe it's a timeshare, sort of like Tre'Davious White and Maxwell Hairston at outside corner has been when both guys were healthy. And with Benford was healthy. Of course, there was a different situation on Sunday in Miami. But yeah, Davis is playing that role, right? I mean, that's what he is. Yeah. He's outside X. That's why they drafted Coleman, was to replace that on the roster.
I think so. That's right. That's what it feels like to me. And what's wild about all this is, and we talked about this before, but if you look at the snap counts for this team, like of all the stuff that's surrounding Keon Coleman, and yet here he is,
every week,
highest percentage of snap counts.
Yep.
71%, 71. And like, to put that in context, the next closest guy is Khalil Shakir at 60, right? And then beyond that, I think it's Tyrell Shavers, because guys have just been injured. I mean, you think about that, and it could be also out of necessity because of injury and things like that. Joshua Palmer obviously hasn't been on the field. I mean, Joshua Palmer's the guy that, you want to – I think he's the guy that you think that can take on more of this load, play the X spot, be the outside guy. He's going to help your passing game. But I just wonder where they are with Keon, and think about the fact that, well, they're still using him a lot, even though we talk about these things that McDermott answers for and, talks about the effort and all those kinds of things we talk about. And then you have Gabe Davis, who seems like he's kind of the replacement for him, per se. So I think it's an interesting spot, and I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to go forward. But I do think, as I sit here now, that I feel like Gabe Davis is going to play on Sunday, just kind of the way that things have been trending this way.
So let me ask you this, because Sean McDermott, I think the quote was something like they're still trying to find their best combinations, right, at wide receiver, like who should be out there. I've kind of said this year more maybe than last year, Sal, is like it seems like the everybody eats thing has almost gone too far as an extreme. Because it feels to me that it has to be hard for a quarterback if you don't have a lot of continuity with the guys that are out on the field, and when you are constantly subbing in receivers who aren't really getting enough time to make impacts. I think of Elijah Moore in this. He just doesn't really play a lot. He made that big catch too against the Chiefs on that corner route. I just wonder, is part of the solution, maybe just in your mind, less variation and leaning more into guys that maybe could get a little bit more of a rhythm while they're out there?
I don't know. I mean, you're trying to figure out a puzzle, right? I guess, Nate, right? It's a puzzle, and where does each piece fit properly? I don't think the Bills want to have some sort of philosophical shift to go away from what they have been built on, which is a really strong running game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that everybody is out there, and a lot of people going, and me included here, which is, come on, like, you have Josh Allen throw the ball. I get it. They're simply not built that way right now, though, right? That's not the way they've been built, and it's not their strength. Their strength is, and it sucks to say it that way, but their strength is running the football with James Cook. So they have players who have certain skill sets that they want on the field for running routes, for running the ball and blocking and running routes and catching passes. And I think that that's kind of what they want to do. I can't see some overarching philosophical switch of saying, I want to have these guys out in the field to spread it over and start running the run and shoot. I'm just using an extreme example of how you're saying it, right? I don't think that's what they want to do. So fitting that puzzle together, I think, is tricky. And I think that that's what they're trying to do. And that's why you see not only Gabe Davis possibly playing, but Mecole Hardman now, who comes in and says, okay, well, I mean, he's not a guy you're going to put on the field to block a lot, right? It's not he's not the biggest dude in the world. He's super fast. You want him to run down the field. But I think that they're going to want to use him probably in that role, but also know that, hey, when he's on the field, other teams probably know we're not really, running the ball as much, or because another guy in the field, you don't know what is coming at you, and that's kind of the rub of how they're trying to do things.
Yeah, I wonder, Sal, with mixed into all of this is the comfort of the guy that has been the most reliable, even though he's not on the field as often as a lot of us would like. I don't know, maybe part of the reason is what happened on Sunday in Miami. Dalton Kincaid hurt his hamstring and is out multiple weeks, it looks like, or week to week is how they're terming it. That's been as close to an easy button as they've had, other than like the tunnel screens, say, to Shakir. It's been Kincaid over the middle, and now that's gone. And so I wonder just how inventive they can get within the construct of their playbook and their personnel to try to find. It's a hell of a time to lose the one guy in their passing game that they could count on. I'm going a long way to say that.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they're in somewhat of a crisis passing game wise. They got to get the quarterback back to trusting what he's seeing and taking the throws that are there, and he's probably pressing, and just there's a lot that's going wrong right now. I just wonder how much work they can do to sort of find something that they can lean on with a game coming up on Sunday.
I agree with that. And, I think that if you look at, let's just say, like, they could, if they wanted to, they could elevate Kaleki Latu, right? And he's more of a pass-catching type of tight end. But, I mean, how much is he really going to take any snaps away from anybody who's on the field? So you don't have that guy. You don't have that true pass-catching tight end. Now, I think Jackson Hawes has been a nice little addition here. He's been a nice option, to be able to run some routes, but he's not really beating people one-on-one across the middle, and some of the things you saw that Dalton Kincaid did against the Miami Dolphins. So what is the answer? Do you move guys? Does Keon Coleman start to play a little bit more in the slot? Do you try to create a little bit more of that because you want to control more of the middle of the field, because that's where Dalton Kincaid worked a lot? I'm not really sure. It is tough. It's a tough question. I don't know. It's a puzzle, like I said. We'll see where it goes. I did ask Mecole Hardman today because I want to get a feel for this whole equation as well. I did ask him, like, where do you normally play? Where do you feel most comfortable playing? And he said he's been mainly a slot guy, but he can be used outside. He doesn't mind lining up outside in order to basically, get one-on-one coverage and use his, in cuts and out cuts and things like that. But it's where are the snaps there if he's going to be in the slot too? Now I'm thinking, right? I don't really know. He's not an X, but you can try and line him up. But I just thought that was interesting too that he said that.
Right, great. Another guy that might function best in the slot. That seems like a tough ad right now. Sal Capaccio, on the Western Hotline with us for a couple of more minutes here. I would think Hardman gets a look just for returns. Their return game has been really non-existent.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a stat I ran across the other day, I don't know if we've talked since then. Maybe I did, Bulldog, with you. I'm not really sure on Monday. But a stat I ran across the other day when I found out, and we were told, and we found out, we read, I should say, that he was going to sign to the practice squad. I went and did some numbers and digging, and you guys know, I mean, I'm a Brandon Codrington fan for his skill set. I think he's really good at what he does. But the reality is he hasn't been really good at what he does this year, right? And that's why he has been inactive to me, is because he has not done enough to justify having a guy on the roster that can't play defense or offense.
Right.
If you're going to be just a returner, you got to be exceptional at what you do. And I thought he might have provided enough for this team to be able to do that. That hasn't been the case. So he becomes inactive. You put Khalil Shakir out there, who's a fine decision maker, and he actually has some juice in a return game once in a while, but he's also your main wide receiver. So you bring Mecole Hardman in, and he has way more returns in his career than anybody on the roster, close to 90 NFL punt returns. He's 9.2 yards a return, which is the 11th best of active players. But the stat that really stunned me was the Bills are the second worst team in the NFL as far as average starting drive field position. Second worst. What's even more wild is the worst is the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions, right? They're worse than the Bills at number 2, but the Bills still, on top of that, even though that's the case, they're still the 6th or 7th best scoring offense in the NFL. If you can give them just a little better starting field position, I think it could go a long way. And I'm just talking a few more yards because that matters when you look at the graphic, right? And maybe that's where, and I agree with you, maybe that's where Hardman just goes and says, you do this. And then once in a while, maybe he can kind of get in on. But I do think that maybe he's here just for that, because that's become a bit of a big deal now this year.
And I wonder too, Sal, how much longer they can keep Ray Davis back there. I mean, he's been the guy getting the majority of the returns. There's been a couple of sprinkled in from Ty Johnson. I've seen less of him and more of Curtis Samuel, a couple from him. They've been experimenting with the guy next to Ray Davis. But Ray Davis has sort of been the mainstay in the return game, in the kick return game anyways. And I just, he feels more like the north-south runner. He doesn't have that like real great top-end speed. He's not giving him a lot there in the return game.
Yeah, I think, though, if you're going to have him active, he's got to do that, right? And what's the alternative of not having him active? Having two running backs? You can't do that, right? Can you go to a game with just two running backs? So if you're going to have Ray Davis active, which I think you need because you need the three running backs active, then you want him to contribute in some way to take a little load off somebody else, right? I mean, you don't have to do it that way. But the other guy here, Nate, that you could talk about is Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel can return kicks. He's done it. But, and in fact, Joe Brady, I think it was, or maybe Sean McDermott, one of them a few weeks ago, basically said, like, if he can show he can handle return game, like that would give him an opportunity to be a little more active. Remember when he was inactive for a couple of weeks, right? That was kind of the thought of it too. So I agree with you. Now, there are two returners in the kick return game, and honestly, like the return team doesn't generally get to choose who returns it. It's the kicking team. It's the team kicking it to you because they're going to kick it to one guy or the other. Right.
The numbers on kick returns, by the way, on the year, Condrington has 14 before he got benched. So he was the chief, the guy that was getting the ball when he was active. He's only played 4 games. But Samuel in 5 games has 8. Davis and Ty Johnson each have 7. They both obviously have played all the games because they're the only other 2 running backs on the roster. But I feel like Davis has maybe recently gotten more of the returns last couple games, and that's why that number is where it is.
And by the way, can I add, if you're going to
go ahead,
as far as average is concerned, Codrington is still the highest average guy, and then it's Curtis Samuel, and then Ray Davis, and then Ty Johnson.
Right.
And actually Ty Johnson has a pretty low average considering the rest. He's only at a 21-yard average, whereas Davis, Samuel, and Codrington are all over 25.
What can you tell us about Morgan Fox, the defensive end the Bills signed to the practice squad today?
Yeah, I didn't realize till today he went to a Division II school, by the way, in college. Because when I asked him, so what we do is I get these guys to do their name and position in school for the radio lineups for if they're ever a starter, hey, let's meet the starting lineup. And I said, hey, can you do that for me? And I said, Colorado State, right? He said, well, CSU Pueblo. And I go, oh, what's the difference? He said Division II. Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that he was a smaller college guy. But, it's weird to me, a guy that has had 15 and a half sacks over the last 3 years has been without a job here for the last little while. He's put up some decent numbers. And I think he is the same style / role of what we talk about this a lot, Bulldog. When they lost Michael Hoyt, they need that guy. They need a guy. Could it be Javon Solomon? I'm not sure. He's more of an edge guy, but he was playing that move inside, move outside. That's what they need, especially without Ed Oliver. They need somebody who can provide pass rush from the interior. This guy is a defensive end by trade, but he also can play defensive tackle. Like he can do these things. He is the flex option you have up front. And to be honest, by the way, 6'3", 275, right? He's got that body type. He can kind of do a lot of different things there that you want to see. He's not too big. He's not too small. So it's funny, thinking about this and these guys and how they want to formulate, their roster together. And I'm thinking about Morgan Fox and, coming in and how he can be like a Michael Hoyt. And then I thought, well, how does he not have a job? And maybe the answer is exactly what I said. Maybe it's because teams didn't know where to fit him. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's like, yeah, he has these really multiple skill sets, but he doesn't have this one thing we really like. And we need a DT. He's not a DT. We need a defensive end. He's not a defensive end. The Bills have actually been searching for a guy who can do a little bit of everything here. And as much as position flexibility helps you, it also hurts you sometimes. Remember we had this debate with Ryan Bates a lot of times.
Yeah.
Ryan Bates was really good when he played center or really good when he played guard. But his true value lied in the fact that he could just kind of play all over the place, and then every week you just kind of let him know that you can go in at any point at any time, but we're not going to start you at anywhere specifically.
Yeah. Well, you and Nate are on the same page because we've not, I think off the air, I mentioned Morgan Fox him, and he said, it looks to me like he was playing the Hoyt role before Hoyt was on the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So hopefully that's a plug and play opportunity too. But again, just to the practice squad, we'll see what they do ultimately with the roster with all these, because you only have so many of these elevations per week, right? We're talking about Hardman here, we're talking about Gabe Davis here, and we're talking about Morgan Fox here as all candidates to like maybe have a role on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It might be a little too ambitious for some of these guys too, right? I don't know if Morgan Fox is going to be able to play right away. I mean, to play that role on the Bills defense is going to probably require a little bit more film study and game plan and prep. I mean, the guy just got here, right? So, same thing with Mecole Hardman, although you could just tell him go return punts. You could do that. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes. And obviously the injuries they have right now will kind of dictate where it all goes for them. And then real quick on the Buccaneers side, so everybody knows, Bucky Irving returned to practice today. He was limited. I did read what Todd Bowles said, which is they still want him to get he still has to take a hit on his shoulder, and they only did a walkthrough today. So I don't know if that's trending towards him playing or not. It feels like he might be still a week away, but he's a good running back, and they've missed him for a while. But not sure if they're going to want to bring him up here into the colder weather in Buffalo for his first action, on that shoulder.
I wanted to ask you, Sal, too, right before you get off here. Landon Jackson, obviously losing him last week early in the game, like I'm not that anyone was going to ask like how disappointing, and of course it's really disappointing, but like 4 defensive ends, it just felt like a game he was going to be playing a ton in. And who knows, with AJ Epinesa coming back from the concussion and just all the injuries, like it just feels like that one in particular with the struggles early and the lack of experience and not getting on the field, that one felt to me more disappointing than a lot of these other injuries, which they all are. But that one felt like he's finally got this opportunity. Let's see what he does with it. And, it just didn't last very long in that game.
Yeah, from that standpoint, for sure, Nate. I mean, he hasn't been super productive when he's played, and you hope that at that point he's going to get enough opportunity where he starts to become more productive. I don't even know. Like we don't know if he would have done enough to even justify being active going forward, right? So we'll see. Andre Jones, a guy they've had on the practice squad as well. They have not given him any elevations. I think Keontae Jenkins is a linebacker they really like who can be a little flexible. They do have other options internally, but they're all a little bit different here. And then I agree with you as far as Jackson is concerned, just that edge setter. He would have been nice to have in that role, see what he could do. But, yeah, disappointing from a fact of young player, developing, getting an opportunity, not going to help the team. That really stinks for him.
Sal, do you find out at the end of last night's Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame ceremony and dinner who won the Sal Capaccio experience?
Yes, I did. It's a it was a gentleman named Steve who bought it, and I won't reveal his name overall,
right.
But
right.
It's great. And yeah, that's a nice dinner that we'll go to, and we thank Elios for donating that. It's pretty cool. And to be honest with you, he actually won it 2 years in a row. He had such a good time last year.
Oh, look at this. Wow. He goes in there looking for that. That is.
I would say won it. He outbid.
Right.
You guys better get there on a flight night, though, because that's probably the best thing no one knows about is they do flights of all their pasta and raviolis and chicken wings on Wednesday nights. You just go and you can order, Bulldog's face. You can't see it, I don't think, Sal, but like that, I do that probably once a month there. It's awesome.
Well, listen, this is, it's basically you bid on to have dinner with me and like 4 other people, and we squeeze in a couple more people. But my wife Yana, she comes, and we had a great time. We did it last year, and he bid on that and did it. The other thing that happened last night, I don't know if I told you, I haven't told you this, but so we bought tickets last night for the raffle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Raffle these big ticket items, and we found out we won something. Like, oh, they're like, well, we'll let you know. We have to go through it first. So at the end of the night, I'm like, what did I win? Happened to win a signed Matthew Barnaby jersey last night. I'm like, all right, there you go. And there's a lot of other things, but I went home with a signed Matthew Barnaby jersey.
All right, good deal. Well, good on you for having that.
Throw on YouTube, show some Barnaby videos to Max.
That'll work. Yeah.
Well, that was it. I came home last night. I showed Max, and he's like, who is he?
Oh, you're
I said, do you remember the
buddy.
video I showed you where the guy laid on the ice and got up and started pummeling the goaltender? He said, oh, yeah. I said, that's the guy.
That's the guy. Okay. Right. All right. Well, good on you for making yourself available for that. I didn't know you had done that last year. I just happened to see that I was walking around looking at the auction stuff, and I'm like, Sal Capaccio experience. Look at this. Anyway, good deal. And good seeing you and Yana last night. Thanks, Sal. We kept you long. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, guys. Thanks.
That's our Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New